When we saw Jos Buttler make that decision that led to that dismissal, just before tea, there was a couple of images that surfaced on social media of Johnny Bairstow walking out, looking at the replay, hanging around on the boundary, very much a man who looked like he didn't want to travel back into the dressing room with Jos Buttler. What does that say about where that team's at the moment?
I suppose initially Johnny would have been thinking, well, Jos was the last recognised batsman that he could put on a significant partnership with, really, or who has the credentials to do that. So he would have been very disappointed from that standpoint. And I guess it's in disbelief at what's just gone on, because any club cricketer will tell you, just before a session comes to an end, that, you just try and see it out. Okay, someone as talented as Jos Buttler, perhaps he might come down the wicket and look to put the ball for a single in a gap somewhere, which he's perfectly capable of. But it seems as though a little man on his shoulder was saying, go on, have a go, hit it into the stand. And that little man won, and he came racing down, line bowled the ball more on a line, which meant that, it wasn't going to go straight back over the bowler's head. It was going to get dragged onto the leg side, and Jos decided to go through with the shot. That is a purely mental decision. And yet we saw at the end on the Friday at Adelaide that he faced over 200 balls and denied himself, the sort of instinctive stroke play that we're so used to. And yet he came out today and sort of almost wanted to make up for it. So it's decision-making, pure and simple. It's a mental game. It's not down to talent or technique. And, as good as Australia have been, England clearly today have contributed to where they lie.
We spoke beforehand about the role of sports psychologists increasing massively in sport in general, but obviously in Test cricket this year with the lack of games, with the bubbles and everything. How important is that role going to be in that unit, in the England camp, just going forward into these the next Test? This one it's day one. I'm talking as though we're debriefing. It's like a post-mortem. It's day one. Everything could change. Everything will change. 3-2 England. But how important is the sports psychologist in that camp going to be to repairing what seems to be going on with this team?
Well, the sports psychologist, in my experience, is there to try and read different personalities and have that know-how to how to communicate best with them. What do they want? We're all different characters. Very simply, maybe extrovert, introvert. What do you want from your coaches? The sports psychologist should be there to help the communication and get the best out of every individual. Johnny Bairstow today looked in the zone. He played really well considering he's had no match practice. I thought his feet moved well. He looked clear in his game plan. Ben Stokes, on the other hand, to me, never looked settled. I've never seen him move around the crease so much. So that wasn't convincing at all in my eyes. So I think what's important at this level with players of this quality is that they're clear when they walk over the white line, that they're absolutely clear in their game plan and their template of how they want to go out and play. Jos Buttler, to me, has never been clear. I have never seen him comfortable with his method in Test cricket. And so, to me, right now, Johnny Bairstow is batting at number 6. So he's batting in front of Jos Buttler. So England must think he's a better batsman than Jos Buttler. Why hasn't he got the gloves? That to me, again, is muddled thinking. Johnny Bairstow has 6 Test hundreds to Jos Buttler's 2. So, there's this muddled, I think, selection policy and lack of strategy about England at the moment. I could go on.
I was going to say, because obviously you've been batting coach. Now, I will get to Australia in a minute. Trust me, we'll throw some love Australia's way.
I'm enjoying this.
You've been batting coach, and we've seen all these videos throughout the week of them doing these sort of strange practices in the nets, trying to sort things. Joe Root adding the extra stump. Out of breath, just talking about it, excited talking about it. Then batting on one leg. Obviously, you're a ballroom dancer as well, so you may know something about that. What would you do in this situation? Because it can't all be down to the players, can it? It has to be down to some of the batting coaching as well.
Well, I think David Malan spoke very well, actually, in his press conference about getting the balance right. And, you've got to be careful. You've got to protect confidence. We're 2-0 down, but you've got to protect confidence, but you've got to be honest as well. And you don't overplay this thing about we've got to leave it better. I think they've got to commit. We've spoken about decision-making already. You've got to commit to whatever you do, whether it's to defend or attack. You have to commit to that. Joe Root played beautifully, but then got out with a very indiscriminate sort of hanging the bat out there, edged. So, clearly, you could say, well, the captain hasn't led by example in that regard, in the dismissal. But it's about the end product. He got 50, played well. I think we want to see people like Ben Stokes and Johnny Bairstow. They've got the shots, they've got the pedigree to come out and try and impose themselves. But at the same time, Test cricket is a game where you have to trust your defence at times.